Mate, this is wild. Listen, the mirror is just so it's like a little personal touch. We're both here together. My name is Lily and today I am gonna be, I don't know why I'm showing you through the mirror. I've got a head thing on. I'm gonna be making or attempting to make some moon jars with porcelain. I usually really struggle with porcelain as I'm not very used to it, but also because it's difficult. Join me with my GoPro. Let's just enjoy this little POV view of me making some pots. Right, so this is my wheel setup. I have a little mirror here, as promised. I have my water set up here, my tools on the side, my slops bowl. This guy, I'll show you what I do with it later. It's called a gauge, I think. And then my wear board here. And then I've just got my bats here drying. I've just given them a clean. I usually use stoneware and I'm using porcelain today, so they needed a good clean. I'm gonna start by centering this clay on the wheel. This is gonna be my bat ring, and then I'm gonna throw on bats. I've just made this little flat disc and the lines will mean that some sort of suction can happen and it sticks nicely to it. So then you just center your bat. I have weighed each ball of clay, so they're ideally going to be the same size. A moon jar is two bowls of the same size and you join them together to make a big kind of sphere. But as I said earlier, when I work with porcelain, I really struggle to do it, so that's why I say ideally. So I'm just coning the clay up and down, and it's going to help me center it. So I'm pretty sure the trick with porcelain as well is not to use too much water. It's almost there. So I'm gonna open up now. That might be famous last words, eh? And I'm gonna leave a really thick base because I'm gonna want to put a lovely big foot ring in this. Fingers crossed, I'm gonna be able to treat this like a normal bowl, like a stoneware bowl that I would make. Right, because I'm going to be stretching this clay out, I'm going to leave this nice and thick. Really important to compress the rim. Make sure there's no bits that are sticking to my hand, because the next part I'm going to bring the bowl out. I'm going to use a sponge on the inside and just my fingers on the outside, and I'm tucking my elbows right into my sides. That is wild. I don't like that shape. Let's keep working on it. A little bit more water. Ditching the sponge to see if I can do it sand sponge. Okay, so we're at a crucial point here. This shoulder, we don't want to hold too much of the weight on the top part. So I'm gonna try and sort of smooth that out and maybe push some of this clay from the bottom out a little bit more. Just bring that up nice and slow. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna stop there. Compress the rim again, and that's gonna sort of re-center it a little bit. And I'm gonna compress the base a bit more too. When the clay is leather hard, I'm going to deal with that air bubble, but right now I'm just going to ignore it. I don't want to make any mistakes now. I'm going to go in here, just remove some of this clay from the bottom so that I can pull my wire through. I like to have the wheel spinning just slowly as I pull this through. set this bad boy up. I'm just gonna lift that up. I'm gonna put this little block of clay down the back so that we don't bump it. And then that's it. Let's take it off the wheel. Maybe I'll use calipers as well, actually. Let's have a look at it. Lovely, round bowl, nice. Let's try and replicate it. Oh, I can take a big deep breath. So this is kind of the concept of a moon jar. There's two hemispheres to a moon, and when they join together they make one beautiful thing, but they always are two separate pieces that make up a whole. It's quite romantic, I think. We're going to look at these two and work out which one is going to be the base, which one is going to be the top. So we can flip them over and just kind of lay them on top of each other and work out what shape looks better. I think that's the way round it should be. Yeah. So this one's going to be the base. Put the top here and B for base there. Just made a little bat ring to hold the bats, but they don't need to be super secured. I'm going to start with the top piece and I'm going to score and slip it. It's pretty firm on the rim. Here's a little cup I made. But down the bottom is still really squishy, so I'm not going to completely finish them today, but I am going to assemble them because I don't want too much time to pass in between kind of this stage and joining. That buzzing that you can hear is my kiln on in the background. So this is just porcelain slip, which is just clay mixed with water until it's kind of much more liquid. Right, so I'm just gonna switch these over. And this one I'm gonna center a little bit better. That'll do. It's hard to tell if it's not centered or if it's just like slightly warped. It may be either. Right, and I'm just gonna repeat the process on this one. Now it's the scary bit. I'm gonna attach them. And it's scary because I don't know, I don't want them to join in the wrong place. It's pretty good. Looks like they maybe both were a little bit warped, but we can sort of just adjust them into place. Maybe this one was just slightly bigger, I'm not sure. Okay, now I'm just going to tap it on here. Just so they can kind of hold together. Now this bit is truly terrifying when I'm going to cut this top off. So I'm lining up with a mirror over there and I'm just gonna pull. Because it's soft, it's easy to get through, but I'll tell you what, that is nerve-wracking. Spin it off. I'm pretty new to making moon jars, so this is all kind of new territory to me. I think traditionally, I think there's two ways of doing it, but you would throw a hole in the top part. I'm gonna leave this for maybe 20 minutes or so just to kind of meld together before I start really joining them. And I think it's time to move on to this guy. So I'm just gonna lightly attach this bat to the wheel head. You know what, I think I'm gonna go in with this one to start with. Maybe just my finger, actually. Because I'm so new to MOONJARs, I don't quite know, like, I don't know what my preferred tools are and kind of what my method is and stuff. I'm just kind of winging it until I get used to it, work out what I like to do and what works and what doesn't work. Porcelain's so nice to work with once it's at this stage. Throwing with it is quite hard, but at this stage it's just so beautiful and like milky. It's so nice to, I don't know, to touch. It really responds to everything that you do with it, which can be intimidating, but can be also like, it's quite rewarding because you just do sort of the slightest thing and it tells you if it likes it or not. I'm just gonna get a little bit more clay. This is reclaimed yesterday from my throwing. So I don't know if you can see this kind of area here. It looks as though the bowls weren't quite meeting. Top the joint up with a little tiny coil of clay. This tool is great, it's just a spiky rib. It's really good for when you need to get a smooth surface, ironically, because you're scraping away kind of this very top layer of clay, and then you can come in with your not spiky rib and smooth it. And it does a really good job of, yeah, bringing two halves together, which is great. So you can see there, it looks like a very nice join now. So because it looks as though this top bowl was just slightly bigger than the bottom one, I'm bringing the clay down. On that one over there, it was the other way around. I was bringing the clay up. Lovely. I'm really happy with that. So now I am just going to trim a hole in this top, and that is going to allow me to get in with my hand and just smooth the joint from the inside as well. But I've got to get in here with my wrist. I've got quite big hands, so I'm going to need to be a reasonably sized hole. The thing is though, I don't want to go too wide because I think the ratio of the pot will kind of get messed up, so hopefully this will be enough. Oh yeah, that is very satisfying. Oh, okay. Maybe could have gone smaller to start with the old wrist hole. So I'm just smoothing with my thumb and forefinger, trying to get that joint nice and homogenized. I'm supporting it with my outside hand as well, just kind of feeling for any like soft spots. So far so good. Okay. I might go in with a sponge just to kind of tie it off. I don't want to get it too wet though, that's the thing. It's looking good in there, I think. There's just a few bits that you can see, but you know, I don't mind too much. I don't mind that you can see the join because it is part of the history of this pot, you know. It's how it was made, was joining two bowls, so I might leave it. It's looking pretty good. Quite happy with that. Just smooth it a little bit more before setting it aside to dry for a little bit longer, maybe overnight. Yeah, I'm really happy with that. I am gonna just wrap this inside bit a little bit, where my wrists kind of marked that inner hole. And then I will go in with this guy to smooth this off a little bit. And then mark where. So that's going to be, I'm going to trim all of this off, but not yet. This is still too squishy, you can see, so that needs to harden up. Sup? This is so funny when I do this, but you know what, I think it's worth it. For no good reason, I didn't record any voice for this next bit, so here I am doing a voiceover days later. And I'll actually tell you the truth, it's a month later. So I'm just recentering the clay here. As you can see, the hole isn't quite centered because I maybe didn't quite have it centered when I cut it, so I'm just kind of cleaning that up a little bit. I'm going to trim the top collar part of the MOONJAR in now, fully ignoring the wobbly opening. I use a variety of loop tools to smooth and trim the sides. So this big wide loop tool as well as the smaller one that you saw before. And I am also using my metal rib, which is a very good smoother. It comes in after my loop tools and it really just smooths out all of the trimming lines. It's dangerous though, you can kind of gouge into the side of pots, so be careful if you decide to use it for trimming. So I'm just readdressing the opening there with my square loop tool. The trick is once it stops moving, you actually can't really see that it wobbles, but it was annoying me quite a lot as I was working on it, so I kind of kept going back to it just to mess with it a little bit more, but I think you can see now it looks good. I'm using my calipers to measure the opening and I'm going to mirror that size on the other side of the pot. So just flip it over. I need to just take the bat off. We'll put that back on the wheel using this pot plant with some towels in because I forgot to make a chuck for my MOONJARs, but this worked really, really well, so I was happy with it. I just have to take off these like peelings from where I wired the MOONJAR off the bat. Recenter it, and then I am just going to go in and trim off any excess, mark with my calipers my outer foot ring, and I'll tell you what, I was surprised at how wide it was actually. And as I start trimming here, I hesitated a little bit, but you know, you gotta trust the process, gotta trust the tools. Spoiler alert, it ends up fine. So I start with just trimming out this inside piece and smoothing that out, and then I'm going to check how thin it is, so you can sort of hear the difference in the taps, and that is an indication of the thickness of clay. So I'm not going to do too much more to that inner foot ring. I'll clean it up maybe, but the outside there's loads of clay to take off. Trip over to the sink to get my bowl because there's too many trimmings in the wheel, so I need to just remove some, give me a bit of room to breathe. All of this clay gets recycled, by the way, so it will go into a separate container with some water in, and it will soak up all that water and become usable porcelain again, which is great news. It's very like eco-friendly material clay. Readjusted my mirror so I can see what I'm doing, and just slowly chipping away at it. and back in with the loop tool on this side, and then I go back in with my metal rib in a minute as well. And that is just to mirror the top side of the MOONJAR. Yeah, check her out! I'm happy with it. I feel like it's looking good. This bit's a cleanup mission. I'm not taking too much clay off the top there, it's really just a little bit. And then really refining that foot ring. Obviously a big feature of MOONJARs is the foot ring and the top ridge part, you know, really making sure it looks as good as it can. Getting in with a sponge, finishing it off. This was such a process. I'm moving it now to the back because I want to work on the top, just sponge it off. Get that top side all finished and nice, just like the bottom, as well as sponging away any marks that came from being in the plant pot. So these MOONJARs are made to be part of a collaboration that I'm doing with my boyfriend Jack, and I will show you those in a moment. I make these and then we cover them in slip and oxides and different glazes, and he uses a method called sgraffito to carve away at the surface. I'm so happy with them. And this is a shot of them all together with one of the finished products in the background of the sgraffito piece. And in a moment I'm going to show you a close-up of the sgraffito. We've done a few more in slightly different styles, but this one is one that we're both really happy with. We're stoked with the finish of the cobalt and the glaze and just the different kind of textures. Right, that's it. I would love for you to follow me on Instagram and TikTok. Feel free to like and subscribe. It makes a big difference to me. I'll see you in 2 weeks for another video. Bye!